Harmony Heights was the perfect town. Sunny days, friendly neighbors, no place felt safer. So when the Harper family moved in, everyone was thrilled. The Harpers seemed normal enough. John, the dad, was a quiet artist. Mary, the mom, wrote children's books. They had 2 kids, Danny and Lily. Everyone gathered for the welcome to the neighborhood potluck. The adults chatted happily. But all eyes were on the Harper children. Danny and Lily were always smiling, too wide, too still. Their eyes, cold and empty, darted around like curious lizards. "Such happy children," Mrs. Gable cooed, pinching Danny's cheek. He didn't flinch. His smile never wavered. It was unsettling. Lily, meanwhile, skipped through the crowd, her laughter echoing like a music box melody. But something about her joy felt off-key, artificial. Days turned into weeks. The Harpers settled in. The children were always seen together, holding hands, their cheerful facade never dropping. "Neighbor," as Emily. "Those Harper kids give me the creeps," whispered Emily, the baker's daughter, one afternoon. Her dog, Buster, whined and hid under the table. Strange things began to happen. Dogs barked at nothing. Flowers wilted overnight. And then there were the Giggles. Late at night, echoing from the woods behind the Harper house, chilling, high-pitched giggles. The sound sent shivers down everyone's spines. Parents kept their children inside. Whispers of strange goings-on filled the town square. Harmony Heights didn't feel safe anymore. Mr. Johnson, who lived across from the Harpers, swore he saw Danny and Lily dancing in the moonlight, but their shadows danced differently. Fear hung heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. The fog wrapped around the trees like a shroud, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Every step taken in this forest felt like a journey into the unknown, where shadows seemed to whisper secrets of the past. People avoided the Harper house. It stood at the edge of town, its windows dark and its yard overgrown with weeds. Stories of strange occurrences and eerie sounds had turned it into a place of dread. Even the mailman left packages at the end of the driveway. No one dared to approach the front door, not even for a moment. The house seemed to repel visitors with an invisible force. Emily's dog, Buster, went missing. He was a friendly dog, loved by everyone in the neighborhood. His disappearance added to the growing list of mysteries surrounding the Harper house. He was last seen near the woods behind the Harper house. The dense trees and thick underbrush made it a perfect place for something to hide, or for someone to get lost. Only his collar remained lying on the sidewalk. It was as if Buster had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a small, heartbreaking clue. One evening, old Mrs. Henderson claimed she saw Lily whispering to a flock of crows. Lily was the youngest of the Harper children, and her strange behavior had always been a topic of gossip. The crows cawed back, their black eyes glinting with an unnatural intelligence. It was as if they understood her, as if they were communicating in a language only they knew. The town had had enough. A meeting was called. The air was thick with tension as the townspeople gathered in the dimly lit hall, their faces etched with worry and fear. Something had to be done about the Harper children. Whispers of curses and dark magic filled the room as the townspeople debated their next move. "Neighbor," as Mrs. Henderson. "I saw Lily whispering to a flock of crows," said old Mrs. Henderson. Her voice trembled as she recounted the eerie encounter, her eyes wide with fear. The crows cawed back, their black eyes glinting with an unnatural intelligence. The memory of those eyes haunted Mrs. Henderson, and she shuddered at the thought of what they might mean. The town had had enough. A meeting was called. The sense of urgency was palpable as the townspeople realized they could no longer ignore the strange happenings. Something had to be done about the Harper children. The decision was made. They would confront the Harper family and demand answers. The fate of the town seemed to hang in the balance, and everyone knew that this confrontation could change everything. The town meeting was tense. Everyone agreed something was wrong, but what could they do? They were just children.
"Their smiles, they never change," stammered Mr. Johnson, his voice trembling. "It's like they're masks."
"My roses withered overnight," Mrs. Gable choked back tears. Black, dead, like they'd had all the life drained out of them. Fear turned to anger. They decided to confront the Harpers, demand an explanation, take back their peaceful town. A group of brave townsfolk marched towards the Harper house. Their hearts pounded. What they found inside chilled them to the bone. The house was eerily silent. Dolls, hundreds of them, each one a chilling replica of a Harmony Heights resident.
And there, in the center of it all, stood Danny and Lily, their smiles wider than ever, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light.
"We just wanted to make friends," whispered Lily, her voice dripping with a sweetness that was more terrifying than any scream.
Panic surged through the group. They stumbled back, desperate to escape the house, the dolls, the terrifying children. But as they fled, a glint of metal caught Mr. Johnson's eye, a small silver locket dangling from Lily's neck. He lunged forward, ripping it free. Inside, a faded photograph, two normal children smiling brightly. But their eyes were different. Danny and Lily screamed, their perfect smiles finally cracking. They lunged at Mr. Johnson, their fingernails growing long and sharp. Section 8. The Truth Revealed. Suddenly, the locket in Mr. Johnson's hand grew warm. It was an old, tarnished piece of jewelry, passed down through generations, but tonight, it felt different. The warmth spread through his fingers, almost as if it had a heartbeat of its own. He gasped as an image flooded his mind. The truth. It was overwhelming, a torrent of memories and visions that weren't his own. He saw flashes of the past, moments of joy and sorrow, and then the horrifying reality. The real Danny and Lily were trapped, lost in the woods. They had been missing for weeks, and the town had almost given up hope. But now, Mr. Johnson understood. They were not just lost, they were imprisoned by a malevolent force, their souls stolen, their bodies possessed by something ancient and evil. These entities had taken on the appearance of the children, fooling everyone. They moved among the townsfolk, spreading fear and despair. The creatures, disguised as children, fed off the life force of living things. The wilting flowers, the missing pets, the unexplained illnesses, all were signs of their presence. The town was slowly dying, and no one knew why. The draining fear of the townsfolk was palpable. People were afraid to go out at night, whispers of curses and hauntings filled the air. The once vibrant community was now a shadow of its former self. Mr. Johnson knew what he had to do. The locket was the key, a link to the past and the present. He had to act quickly before the creatures grew too strong. His resolve hardened as he realized the weight of his responsibility. He had to break the locket, shatter the source of their power. It was a risk, but it was the only way to free the children and save the town. Free the real Danny and Lily, release their trapped souls from the curse that bound them. He could almost hear their cries for help echoing through the night, and banish the creatures back into the darkness. They had no place in this world, and it was up to him to send them back to where they came from. The fate of the town rested in his hands, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Mr. Johnson struggled, the locket slipping from his grasp. His fingers, slick with sweat and dirt, fumbled desperately. The locket was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was the key to saving everyone he loved. He had to get it back. The weight of the town's fate pressed heavily on his shoulders. Every second counted, and failure was not an option. He had to save the town, even if it meant sacrificing himself. The thought of his family and friends suffering was unbearable. He steeled himself, knowing that his actions would determine their future. He kicked out, connecting with Lily's chest. The force of the blow was enough to send her flying, but it pained him to hurt someone he once cared about. She flew back, crashing into a shelf of dolls. The porcelain faces shattered, mirroring the broken trust and friendships that had led to this moment. The locket lay within reach, S5. It glimmered with an eerie light, almost as if it was calling out to him, urging him to act quickly. Section 9. Trapped. The chaos around him seemed to intensify, the air thick with tension and fear. He raised the locket high, ready to smash it on the ground. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the urgency of the situation. But the creatures were too quick. They moved with a speed and agility that defied nature, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. They leaped onto him, their strength inhuman. He felt their claws dig into his flesh, their growls reverberating in his ears. The other townsfolk scattered, their screams echoing through the house. Panic spread like wildfire, and the once peaceful home was now a battlefield. They were trapped, at the mercy of the creatures wearing the faces of children. The sight was both horrifying and heartbreaking, a twisted mockery of innocence. Mr. Johnson knew that if he didn't act now, there would be no hope left for any of them. The locket was their last chance, and he had to find a way to use it, no matter the cost. Section 10. Escape from Harmony Heights. With a surge of adrenaline, he grabbed the locket. He slammed it against the floor. A blinding light erupted, throwing him back. The house shook. The creatures shrieked in agony. When the light faded, they were gone. And so was the Harper house. The townsfolk, shaken but alive, stumbled out of the woods. Harmony Heights was safe, but the memory of the smiling children lingered. They never spoke of that night, but they never forgot the lesson. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters hide behind the most innocent of faces.
Section 11. They're everywhere. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after that horrific night. But a chilling thought plagued everyone's minds. What if the creatures hadn't been destroyed? What if they were out there, searching for a new town, new faces to wear?
One sunny afternoon, Emily saw a moving truck pulling into town. Two children waved from the window. Their smiles were wide, too wide. Her blood ran cold. They were everywhere.